Want to know the latest in soccer? Then listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast. From MLS, the World Cup, and the Premier League, we've got you covered. The latest updates, the hottest matches, and news on the league's top players. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast.
David Beckham scores a goal to take England all the way to the World Cup finals.
Listen now.
Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Soccer Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Theo Hernandez, and I'm going to be bringing you the latest and greatest in soccer news from around the world. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to your favorite soccer podcast. I'm excited to keep giving you guys some soccer news. We got Premier League. We got all the top 5 leagues to talk about. We got some more cup action that I was not able to get into in my last show. And, of course, I'm going to be mixing it up with the top 10, so we have a lot to get into in today's show. So let's get into what's going to be discussed today. For the first part of the show, as always, we're going to be talking about the Premier League, just talk about what's going on throughout the weekend. We had a couple exciting games to get into, and, of course, what's going on at that top of the table, as it looks like there's a team that could be separating themselves as the champions of the Premier League. In the second part of the show, we're going to be talking about the other top 5 leagues, as always, talking about the Bundesliga, Serie A, La Liga, Liga. We're going to be getting into all those games that happened this weekend and talk about what's going on in those tables as well. I'm going to be finishing it, the third segment off with the Copa del Rey and Copa Italia recaps and previewing the next round. I wasn't able to get into those last games that happened on Sunday, so I'm going to be talking about those, recapping those games, and then previewing the exciting matchups we have for the next round. And for the last part of the show, I'm going to be mixing it up, not talking about the international teams and their top players, but I'm going to be doing top 10 clubs in the world this season so far, just which ones have impressed the most. Obviously going to look a lot different than any list I put up together because there have been some surprises this season, so I'm excited to get into all of that. But let's just get started with the Premier League and what happened this weekend. We had some very interesting games, some teams that continue to play well, some teams that missed out on opportunities to, move up on the table. So I want to start off with Everton versus Newcastle, where we had Newcastle defeating Everton 2-0. Got 2 goals in the second half from Callum Wilson, who had a really fabulous header in the 73rd minute, put a lot of power onto it, kept the speed up from that header to get past, Pickford. And honestly, for most of this game, it was a lot of back and forth. Both teams had opportunities. Everton early on looked like the team that were, dominating, getting a lot of possession. I mean, they had 61% possession for this entire game, so they were dominating for most of it. They just, for some reason, couldn't get many clean opportunities. You got to credit Newcastle's defense. They were playing very strong, getting a lot of players in front of the ball, and were not allowing Everton to do whatever they wanted. But at the same time, there were opportunities for Everton to, just make a better final ball, find a better opportunity, and they just weren't able to do that. I will tell you one thing. This was a very quiet game for Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who's had obviously, one of the most breakout performances this season. He's having a career year, and you kind of didn't feel his presence in this game. James had some good opportunities. Same for Richarlison, playing very well. I love what Yerry Mina's doing so far this season, but they just could not get a good opportunity out there. I mean, off the bench, I mean, they don't have Allen playing right now. I think he might be injured at the moment, but they did have Doucouré and James Rodriguez, 2 of the 3, better midfielders for them. Sigurdsson played that other midfielding role. Iwobi on the right, as always. But they just couldn't give Calvert-Lewin that good delivery in the box to get him some, decent opportunities. while for Newcastle, they attacked that Everton weakness, which is the defense on set pieces. They have no presence there. There were so many opportunities. I mean, Newcastle could have easily had another goal or two because there were some dead ball situations where, I mean, Newcastle players were getting wide open headers. And eventually it hurt Everton as Caleb Wilson was able to score on a header off a corner kick. And it was an easy header. And then after that, they scored a second goal, with in extra time after Everton were trying to push up and trying to get, a lot of players on the ball. It left the back wide open, and obviously Newcastle took advantage of it to take a 2-0 lead and take all 3 points in this game. And it was a tough loss for Everton as, they now got 2 losses in their last 4 after playing so well the past few weeks before this rough stretch. And it's now dropped them to 8th in the table. And, I mean, they do have 2 games in hand on Chelsea above them, so they possibly could go 7th. And they got 2 games in hand on West Ham, Leicester. I mean, a lot of the teams ahead of them. But at the same time, they just have not been able to put a consistent run of form, to be able to really reach that top 5 yet. I mean, it's incredible what West Ham have been doing. I mean, they're 4 wins in a row, even though at the moment Liverpool and West Ham are going at it right now. Liverpool are defeating them 3-0. So you will see West Ham losing this game and snapping that 4-game win streak. But at the same time, it's just been, a tough stretch for Everton, and they have not been able to, take advantage of some of the other teams around them not playing well either. So tough loss for them, but great performance for Newcastle. As for them, they've been at the bottom of the table for a while, but this is their first win in their last 4 games, or I guess their last 5 games. They had 4 straight losses before this win, so which honestly just makes it even worse for Everton. But Newcastle took advantage of their opportunities and a great game from Caleb Wilson. Next, we got Crystal Palace versus Wolves. Crystal Palace came out on top with a 1-0 victory over the Wolves, and you got new signing Willian Jose on the top of the in the top of the front 3, that number 9 spot. And, he had some solid opportunities in this game, was denied a goal by Guyata a couple times. He had a really nice header that, as what you're always told to do, hit it down. He did so, but it was a really nice save. He had like 3 or 4 really nice saves in this game for Guyata, but they just couldn't muster up many other opportunities than really those from Willian Jose. I mean, they only had 6 shots in this game, 4 on target. So, I mean, at least it was efficient. But for Crystal Palace, it never felt like they were overwhelmed by what the Wolves were doing. They consistently, had their own opportunities. They had 11 shots, although 2 were on target, which isn't a good, efficient look. They did get a really nice shot from Abarechi Eze in the 60th minute. I love the way he kind of faked the way he was going right, kind of took the ball on his own and then one-shotted it past Rui Patricio. Really solid goal from him to give Crystal Palace that 1-0 lead. They were able to hold on. Wolves had, a lot of possession late in that game to try to, get an equalizer, but they just couldn't do so. Was it Zaha trying to go for his 10th goal of the season? Really couldn't do it. Didn't have a lot of, had some opportunities, but a lot of them were off target, and he just didn't have that magic today. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got to say about that game. Man City versus Sheffield United. Man City did not dominate the way I was expecting them to. I mean, they did have a lot of possession, and they had 75% possession, so they obviously dominated the game. But they only came out of this game with a 1-0 victory, so it was still anybody's game late in this one. Sheffield United didn't really make too many opportunities. I mean, with 25% possession, 75% pass accuracy, they didn't really have much rhythm to really go with. No momentum was going their way. They had 4 shots, only 1 on target. Although Man City, you gotta credit Sheffield United's defense. They did not allow Man City to do whatever they wanted with that possession. They only had 10 shots, 5 on target, but it was still enough to get them those 3 points. Gabriel Jesus in the 9th minute opened up the scoring. Wasn't able to get anything else after that, but at the same time, Man City were able to get the victory. That's the most important thing. But still, they've now won, how many matches in a row? They just continue to win, and that's the most important thing. They're starting to make that separation with those teams behind them. They have 44 points now with a game in hand on Manchester United, who have 41. It's just, it's kind of the way it's been going for Man City as of late. And for the other teams, you look at what Liverpool, who are in third, and Man United in second have been doing. Their last 3-4 games for Man United, they got 2 draws and a loss. The last 5 games for Liverpool, they got 2 draws and 2 losses, a win. I mean, I think they're about to get a win now against West Ham. It's 3-1 at the moment, but still, they just have not been able to play consistently at all. I know Virgil van Dijk is not there, and that's a huge part of their team, probably one of their most, if not their most important player, when you really think about how weak their defense is if it doesn't have, him there. And it's like, you look at the amount of goals they've allowed, 24 goals, which isn't like worse in the league. I mean, obviously the teams towards the bottom, but when you talk about the teams around them, I mean, Man United is not that good, but Man City's got the top defense in the entire league with only 13 goals allowed. And so really, when you think about it, Liverpool's defense is like middle of the pack without Virgil van Dijk. And that's not going to cut it in terms of winning the Premier League, especially when their offense isn't that much better than everyone else around them. They are number 1 in the league with 43 goals scored, but that's only 6 goals more than Man City and Man United and Leicester City, which are all around them. So it's not that much better where they can just outscore their opponents every single night. So it has been a tough season for them without one of their best players, but still they got the win here. For Liverpool, either way, it's been tough. But Man City were able to take care of business. 1-0 win for them over Sheffield United, as you'd expect them to. Top of the table against bottom of the table. Top of the table wins. Let's see. We got Arsenal versus Man United. I was excited to see this game, see if Arsenal can actually, back up the way they've been playing of late. And they still played pretty well. I'll be honest. They had just as many opportunities as Man United to score. I guess if you're going into this game, you would expect Man United to really dominate this game. And yes, they had a bit more possession, 57% to 43%. But at the same time, they just didn't have many good opportunities to score. I will give a lot of credit to Bernd Leno. Made an incredible save against Fred. But man, Cavani, I mean, I'm always hyping him up, how great of a striker he is. But even I know during his years as PSG, man, there's some times, and there was even some stretches during his career there at PSG where he would just miss some opportunity. And that was what he was known for a moment. How many missed opportunities, how he would be so close to goal, but then he would still somehow put it wide or hit the post. And this was one of those games that reared that ugly head of his. It just like he had a couple shots where he was like right in front of goal. It should have gone in and he just put it wide. It just was not a good game for Cavani. Pogba, I liked what I saw from him. Fred as well. I mean, this is kind of like the first time I really saw Fred. I mean, even though I'm sure he's been playing well all season. I mean, he's been one of their one of the most important players in their starting 11. But this game, I really saw, everything that he does in terms of controlling the midfield, making the right decisions with the passes, and it was very impressive. But it just wasn't enough to get by Arsenal's defense, who weren't that great, to be honest. I mean, there were a couple times where Holding and David Luiz were caught out of position, and it allowed Man United to have some decent looks at goal, but their shooting boots just were not here today. In all, they had 14 shots for Man United, and 3 on target. So that's not a very good efficiency there. Even worse for Arsenal, they had 17 shots, 3 on target. But in the second half, there was a lot better looks for Arsenal. They got, what was it? Oh, it was, what's his name? Rowe, what's that name? Smith Rowe, Emil Smith Rowe had a really nice shot at De Gea, but he saved it, brilliantly. And then Lacazette got a really nice set piece shot, but it hit the top of the bar and was not able to go in. So Arsenal were giving a lot of pressure in that second half, but just were not able to go through. And these teams, split the spoils and get a goalless draw in this one. This was actually the first goalless draw between Arsenal and Manchester United in the Premier League since February 2014. So it's been some time since these teams has fought to a goalless draw, because you expect fireworks when these two top teams go up against each other, but yeah, that's not what we got today. I'll tell you what, another really exciting game that I saw, and in my opinion was probably the most exciting game of this week, despite it only being a 1-0 game, was Aston Villa versus Southampton. I mean, these are two mid-table clubs that have been, performing pretty well this season, though Southampton are coming off some, really tough losses. They got I think it's now 3 or 4 straight losses in a row with this game, but man, they deserve to draw on this one. Aston Villa played great. Jack Grealish especially has, who's obviously he's their best player, but he played so well in this game, finding space, making, excellent passes into the box. He was the one that assisted Ross Barkley on that header in the 41st minute to give them that 1-0 lead. But man, Southampton had so many opportunities, especially late in the game, that just did not fall for them. I credit the Aston Villa defense for getting in the way and actually, putting a pretty strong wall in front of goal and putting a lot of players in front of the ball. But man, there was one goal that probably should have been counted for Southampton. Danny Ings was called offside on like the slimmest of margins. I mean, they were literally, VAR was literally, looking at the sleeves of his jersey to see if he was offside. That's how close it was. I honestly believe it should have just been called a goal, but that is just such a harsh call for Southampton to get after getting a lot of opportunities. I mean, they had 20 shots in this game, despite 5 on target. It feels like they should have been rewarded for their, really strong play. Even though Aston Villa had opportunities of their own, it was only 8 shots, 4 on target. So, they weren't as clinical in front of goal. But 60% possession for Southampton, and they got the shots with them. It's just, it's a combination of some harsh calls, but also some very solid defense from Aston Villa, and from some solid goaltending from Martinez. I mean, he's been one of the better goaltenders this season, and he just proved that once again in this game. Really using those long arms and that long, build of his to really get in front of a lot of these shots and just stop Southampton in their tracks. So, big time win for Aston Villa, puts them back into the top half of the table and puts them in 9th spot at the moment, just ahead of Arsenal, and with 2 games in hand on them. So they're looking very good, even though over the last 5 games they do have 3 losses. Over the last 3 they do have 2 wins. So they are starting to play a little bit better. They just need to keep it up if they want any chance of making it into a top 5 spot. But yeah, that was a very, very exciting game. I was really happy to see that one. Let's see, Chelsea versus Burnley. We got some Chelsea finally, mustering up a decent game. Even though Burnley didn't play terrible, but it was, really when I was looking at the highlights, it was just all Chelsea. It was they had 19 shots, 8 on target, and Burnley in this game had 1 shot, not a single one on target, and 28% possession. So yes, Burnley did have a very bad game, but you gotta credit Chelsea and the way they were playing, the formation that Tuchel put together, getting his first win as a Chelsea manager. Loving that back 3 of Azpilicueta, Silva, and Rudiger. The midfield of Kovacic and Jorginho is one of the best in the Premier League, in my opinion. And then that front 3, you got Mason Mount, Timo Werner, Tammy Abraham playing extremely well. Especially Tammy Abraham with 6 goals, and I think he had like 2 assists this season so far. Obviously, Timo Werner has not been, the player that they were hoping he'd come in. But Mason Mount continues to improve and just become a very important player for this Chelsea team. And I really like what I saw from Hudson-Odoi as well. He played very, very well on that right wing position. He was more like a right midfielder, but he was going up. He was being pushed forward a lot. And, man, what a goal this today from Marcos Alonso. I mean, Pulisic off the bench, got him the ball inside the box. He hit it off his chest, off his knee, and then just one of the hardest shots I've seen him shoot. I mean, he hasn't been playing that much. He's not a regular player for Chelsea. I mean, he's gotten I remember hearing the commentators that he said he hasn't gotten more than 45 minutes of Premier League time since October. So for him to come into this game, start, and actually play a very important part in this game to give them 3 points was huge. I mean, that shot was ridiculous. Probably one of the goals of the week for the Premier League. You also got a really impressive goal from Azpilicueta in the first half, I believe it was. Yeah, where he was able to go alongside Hudson-Odoi. I mean, you got to be quick to go by Hudson-Odoi, and he found them. Hudson-Odoi found Azpilicueta, and he scored a really nice goal past Pope. But overall, this was just a very overall solid game from Chelsea, and hopefully they can build off this and continue to play well. It does hurt me to see Pulisic coming off the bench. I mean, he did get an assist in this game. He had some very solid passes to like Hudson-Odoi. He was playing very well overall, but yeah, it's just for him to come off the bench, it just kind of sucks to see from what he was doing last year to now him just being a bench player. I mean, they also got N'Golo Kante off the bench, Ben Chilwell, Kai Havertz came off the bench. So, I mean, they do have a lot of talent on this team. We knew that coming in, but it's just, yeah, it still hurts. Let's see, what else do we have? I think we had another exciting game. We had Leicester City versus Leeds United. Leeds United defeating Leicester City 3-1. I mean, early on in this game, it looked like it was going to be Leicester City's game because they had a lot of opportunities. Harvey Barnes scored a very nice goal off his, very long run in the 13th minute, just showing his improvement throughout this season. But then Leeds United got it right back 2 minutes later. A really solid pass from Patrick Bamford, who was easily the MVP of this game. Got a goal and 2 assists. His goal in the 70th minute was ridiculous to get it from his left foot, a cross goal over what was it? Kasper Schmeichel. Just absolutely ridiculous from him. But I mean, you got a solid game from Leeds United overall. I mean, Patrick Bamford obviously playing extremely well. Jack Harrison playing great. Rodrigo, I mean, even though he's a club record signing, just wasn't really putting his imprint on this game. But then Dallas played well, but it was all Patrick Bamford in this game. The 2 assists that he got were great. His unselfishness late in the game in the 84th minute to get Jack Harrison that goal was excellent. I mean, you love to see that in a striker, not to be greedy and go for that second goal, but to, find the clearly open man for the easy goal to give him a 3-1 lead and all 3 points. But man, this was a tough loss for Leicester City. Who, have been they've been playing great this season. I mean, obviously dealing with a lot of injuries. Now they don't have, Vardy in at that number 9 spot that he's always been at. Obviously without Pereira this season, and Ndidi. They're dealing with so many injuries, but they've been able to deal with them and still stay near the top of the table. But now it's just a loss and a draw in their last 2 games. They're dropping a few points after playing well before that. And it just kind of feels like they're losing their legs. They had 18 shots in this game, 8 on target, but 8 shots allowed for Leeds United and 7 on target. Possession was pretty even, so this was an overall even game between these two sides. But Leeds United were just able to come up with much more efficient looks and really take advantage of Leicester City's aggressiveness. So huge game for them, but yeah, that's going to wrap it up for this segment. We had a lot of action going on in the Premier League, but make sure you guys stay tuned because when I come back, we're going to be talking about the other top 5 leagues right after this.
Are you looking to get your college football fix? Looking to get the latest news on your favorite school's team? The GSMC College Football Podcast is your ticket to all things college football. Join us as we talk college football from the national championship, the college rivalries, the bowl game, to the Heisman Trophy. To which conference is the best? We've got you covered for the Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, the Pac-12, ACC, and everything in between. Download the GSMC College Football Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back, everyone. If you missed the last segment, we talked about the Premier League, went over some of the exciting games that happened this past weekend, and of course discussed what's going on in the table. And now we're going to be talking about the other top 5 leagues, starting with Serie A, moving on to the Bundesliga, La Liga, and finally Liga. So let's just get started with the Serie A league, where there are some exciting things going on at the top of the table. We obviously have one of the more exciting races going on with AC Milan and Inter Milan going at it, with just back and forth. I mean, they ran into a couple tough games over the past five games, but have now gotten back to their winning ways. Let's start with AC Milan versus Bologna, where AC Milan defeated them 2-1, but it wasn't with some late drama. They did get a goal from Ante Rebic in the 26th minute after a missed penalty, or I guess a saved penalty from Zlatan Ibrahimovic. But Rebic was very quick to react to it and score that opening goal for AC Milan. Frank Kessie has scored his penalty in the 55th minute. He's been their best penalty taker this season. They go with Zlatan Ibrahimovic a bit, but he's 3 for 6 so far this season. Hasn't been at that usual Zlatan Ibrahimovic clinical self in penalty, but Kessie 6 for 7 on penalties this season has been a great part of this team. And that got AC Milan that second goal. But then Bologna were not going down quiet. They scored in the 81st minute, really nice goal from Andrea Poli to make it a 1-goal game. And but AC Milan were able to hold on, and they were very efficient in this game. But Bologna were not dominated by any means. I mean, they had 48% possession to 52% for AC Milan. They had 11 shots, 5 on target. However, AC Milan were just more clinical, more efficient with their attacks. Had 15 shots, 10 on target. That's what you love to see if you're in a one of the top teams in the league. You love to see your attack really play well. And they got really great contributions from pretty much everywhere on the team. Kessie played well. Rebic obviously was great on that left side. Leao has played. Leao actually had kind of a quiet game, same as Ibrahimovic. But Tonali, set the tempo in that midfield. I love Tomori in that back line with Romagnoli. Calabria kind of had a couple mistakes in this game, but it did not cost AC Milan a goal, thankfully. And then Theo Hernandez, one of the best fullbacks in the world, and in my opinion, the best fullback in the Serie A. Obviously played well. Donnarumma had a couple great saves. So it was an overall great game from AC Milan, but you also got to credit Bologna and specifically their goalkeeper, Skorupski, who had some incredible saves throughout this game to keep Bologna close. If it wasn't for him, I mean, AC Milan could have easily had 5 goals in this game. I mean, he had an excellent game. So great overall performance from both teams, but AC Milan, as they have all season, were able to come out with the victory, get the 3 points, and get back to those winning ways after losing their last match. And now they have 3 wins in their last 4, looking to get back on track to a Serie A title. Their first in, I don't even know how long. I'm not going to look it up, but yeah, great game from them. Juventus, I'll go with Inter Milan now, where Inter Milan dominated Benevento 4-0. It started with an own goal in the 7th minute. Not a great start for Benevento, but then the next goal didn't come until the second half, where Lautaro Martinez scored in the 57th minute. And I mean, the match, the duo, that dynamic duo of Romelu Lukaku and Lautaro Martinez has been such a potent attack this year. I mean, it was last year as well. That's a reason Inter Milan were able to be second in the Serie A last season. But man, it just seems that they're just getting better and better as they play together. And it's crazy. They absolutely dominated Benevento in this game. Did not allow them to get any sort of rhythm. They had 0 shots this entire game. Benevento did not have a single shot, not even a look at goal, nothing. 38% possession. They had 82% pass accuracy, so they were getting, the ball passed around, but once it got into the final third or even into the half of Inter Milan, they couldn't get anything going, and you have to credit Inter Milan's defense. I mean, they've been great all season. I mean, I love the defense of Skriniar, Bastoni, Ranocchia, and you also got to look at Barella. Hakimi, they all kind of contribute to that defensive efforts, but I mean, it's all about Lukaku and Lautaro Martinez. Those two guys who are always up top, play so well off each other, and I mean, that's the key to success for Inter Milan this season, and for them to try to overcome AC Milan. They obviously need some help from AC Milan, but at the same time, if Lukaku and Martinez are playing this well, it's going to be very hard for any team to defeat them. And obviously Benevento are not one of the better teams this season. I mean, they've been a mid-table club. They're kind of going through some tough stretches right now. Three losses in the last 4. They've given up the second most goals this season. So their defense is obviously one of the worst in the league. Their offense has been okay, but it hasn't been any more than kind of like mid to honestly bottom table. They have one of the worst goal differentials in the entire league. They've just been able to, kind of come up with some victories here and there, but this was certainly not their game. Clearly didn't do anything. I mean, 0 shots in this entire game. Very, very tough to come back from that. And Inter Milan get a very, very impressive victory, 4-0. Juventus also on the winning column. They get a 2-0 victory over Sampdoria. Federico Chiesa continues to impress and improve as the season goes on. Gets a goal in the 20th minute. Aaron Ramsey gets a goal as well in extra time to make it 2-0 and kind of seal the deal for Juventus. Their defense played well. They allowed Sampdoria to have 6 shots, only 1 on target. Though Juventus weren't that much better in terms of creating attack. They had 9 shots, only 3 on target. But they did just enough to get over the hump here as they rise to now 3rd in the Serie A in the scrappy win. They did have to work hard for this game. Sampdoria did not lay down and they didn't have a lot of threats on the attack, but they did not allow Juventus to just kind of, do whatever they wanted in the attack. But they did enough. They did just enough, and they continue to win games and stay just behind Inter. I mean, obviously, there's still a few. They're 7 points behind Milan and 5 points behind Inter Milan. But they do have a game in hand. That is a good thing. And they do have 4 wins in the last 5. So they've certainly been playing much, much better. And you got to be impressed with what they've been able to do. What other games I want to talk about here? Napoli defeated Parma 2-0, so the good Napoli showed up this week. Elif Elmas and Matteo Politano scored the 2 goals for Napoli. They dominated defensively. They allowed only 5 shots, 1 on target. Although possession, it was pretty even, so it was kind of back and forth. But in the end, Napoli were able to get those goals and come out on top. Atalanta lost to Lazio. That was a big game this week, and it allows Lazio, who have now won 5 in a row, to overtake Atalanta in the table. I mean, huge run of form from Lazio after they started the season off terribly. They're now in the best stretch of their season and riding that to possibly a top 5 finish. I mean, Napoli and Roma still and Juventus have a game in hand over Lazio, so obviously we need to see what happens there, but they're the hottest team in the league right now, and they're looking for a top 5 spot, and the offense was always good enough. It was whether the defense can play at least close to the same level, and they have been doing that of late. You look over their last couple games, allow only 1 goal to Atalanta, and what a win that was for them after losing to them in the Coppa Italia, which we'll get into later. So I don't want to talk too much about that. They allowed 1 goal to Sassuolo. They got a clean sheet on Roma, a clean sheet on Parma, only 1 goal to Fiorentina, only 1 goal to Genoa up until they gave 3 goals to Milan before that. But that was already in 2020. So I mean, over the past few games, over the past few weeks, Lazio's defense has certainly taken it up a notch, and that's exactly what they needed because their offense is good enough to win any given night with Ciro Immobile, Luis Alberto. It's just they have a great potent attack. Lazio just needed that defense to come and help them out, and that's what they're doing now. But yeah, it's a tough loss for Atalanta after they've been playing well over the past few weeks too. They have one of the better attacks in the league. Their defense hasn't been playing bad. They have one of the better goal differentials in the league, but they take this loss here and now fall to 7th. Same could be said for Sassuolo, just cannot get it right. Get a draw to Cagliari and a lucky draw at that. They had opportunities to score, just couldn't really muster anything until late in the game. Jeremy Boga in the extra time equalizes for Sassuolo after João Pedro for Cagliari scored the opening goal in the 75th minute. And this was a very lucky draw for Sassuolo to make it 2 draws and 2 losses in their last 5 games, or their last 4 games, and so they've just not been able to muster up any sort of solid performances. And when you look at Verona right behind them, if they're able to put together a solid performance against Roma today, which it still hasn't started yet, but they could overcome Sassuolo and drop them to 9th in the table. So not a strong start to their 2021 season. They just cannot seem to find any sort of rhythm. But yeah, that's going to wrap it up for Serie A. We're moving on to the Bundesliga, where Bayern Munich continue to dominate. Now 4 wins in a row. They just defeated, Hoffenheim 4-1, kind of get a little payback over them after that early loss in the season. Union Berlin get a 1-1 draw in this game over Borussia Mönchengladbach. That was an exciting game, as it was, two of the teams that are trying to get up in the table. They're 7th and 8th, and they get this draw. Union Berlin were kind of the opposite of what Mönchengladbach are doing. We're coming off 2 straight losses after Mönchengladbach had 2 straight wins. So, if anybody was going into this game betting on anyone, it was going to be Mönchengladbach. But they get the draw here and, split the spoils. We also had a very exciting game between RB Leipzig and Bayer Leverkusen. But it was RB Leipzig who, and as you could tell, that's kind of the way you would expect this game to go. The way Bayer Leverkusen have been playing of late, have not been able to find any sort of consistency. Now have 3 losses in their last 4 games and continue to drop. I'm sure you guys remember when they were one of the clear challengers to Bayern Munich in this season for the title, but their losses, just no consistency of play as of late, has them now 5th in the table behind teams like Wolfsburg and Frankfurt that have been playing so well as of late. Frankfurt now have 4 wins in their last 5 games, and they just finished winning against Hertha Berlin, a game that you expect them to win. But, Andre Silva continues to absolutely kill it this season. He got 2 goals in this game, one in the 67th minute and a penalty in extra time to kind of seal that game for them. Martin Hinteregger scored in the 84th minute as well to give Frankfurt that 3-1 win, and they absolutely dominated Hertha in this one, and it's very, very impressive what Frankfurt have been able to do. They're now 4th in the table, and you look at Wolfsburg, they also dominated SC Freiburg. I always hate it when I see SC Freiburg lose, but Wolfsburg absolutely deserved this one. The possession was pretty even, but Wolfsburg just were able to be more clinical in front of goal. John Brooks got a goal in the 21st minute. The number 9, Wout Weghorst, in the 39th minute made it 2-0 before half. And then Yanni Gerhardt in the 85th minute made it 3-0 to just seal it for Wolfsburg and just make this a dominating victory for Wolfsburg and now have them 3rd in the table. Who would have thought that? I had teams like Borussia Dortmund, Bayer Leverkusen, Mönchengladbach up there, and obviously RB Leipzig, who are 2nd right now, up there with Bayern Munich. But man, it's the impressive performances of Wolfsburg and Frankfurt that have really caught the eye here in this Bundesliga season. Another team, let me see, RB Leipzig were able to get that win over Leverkusen. Dortmund were able to get a win over Augsburg. You'd hope, right? But they didn't start this game that well. Andre Hahn in the 10th minute scored for Augsburg to already put the pressure on Dortmund. But then Thomas Delaney in the 26th minute equalized. Jadon Sancho got his goal in the 63rd minute. And then an own goal by Felix Udokai in the 75th minute kind of sealed it for Augsburg as Dortmund win this one 3-1. But really all the damage has already been done. They were coming off 2 straight losses. They're 6th in the table, tied with Bayer Leverkusen. Just who would have thought that these teams would be there at this moment? But man, you just got to tip your hat to Frankfurt and Wolfsburg to just continue to play their game and play well. Both coming off 2 straight losses, 2 straight wins, and not that they have a chance to go against Bayern Munich, because they've already created that separation. They're already 7 points ahead of RB Leipzig, and it doesn't look like they're going to be slowing down anytime soon. Their ridiculous attack. They have 57 goals scored this season. That's 20 more, or I guess 19 more than the second best team of Frankfurt and Dortmund. It's just ridiculous what they've been able to do. Their 26 goals allowed aren't that good, but when you have an attack like Bayern do, it's just, you can't really fault them. They'll outscore almost any team that plays. And it's also the fact that they get scoring from so many different players. In this game against Hoffenheim, they had Boateng score, Müller, Lewandowski, and Gnabry all got on the score sheet, and that's what makes Bayern Munich so good and clearly the winners of this Bundesliga season. Unless something drastically bad happens for Bayern Munich, they're expected to win this season. Next, we got La Liga, where as it has been for quite some time now, Atletico Madrid are absolutely keep having a stranglehold on that La Liga title with still a game in hand on Real Madrid and Sevilla. They're 10 points and 11 points ahead of them. That's just absolutely ridiculous. They're 10 points clear at the top of the table with a game in hand. They've got, how many wins in a row do they have in La Liga? 5 straight, but let's see, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 straight wins before that loss to Real Madrid 2-0. But even with Real Madrid able to, get that win over Atletico Madrid, they're still 10 points behind them. It's just absolutely incredible what Atletico Madrid have been able to do this season. And it's just a combination of just great play from everybody. The defense has been absolutely stout. Only 10 goals allowed in 19 matches played. 40 goals scored. They've been great on both ends. And this is the Atletico Madrid that I expected to see this season, but not at just this dominant form. I expected a team like Real Madrid or maybe Barcelona to kind of play not just as good, but good enough to still be in contention for the title. But this is Atletico Madrid's season to lose. It's absolutely incredible what they've been able to do, and I just got to be impressed with that. And you look, they defeated Cadiz 4-2, as you'd expect. To allow 2 goals to Cadiz, that's still, kind of shocking. But Luis Suarez gets a brace. Saul Niguez I don't know how to say it, but Saul gets a 44th minute goal. Golke scores in the 88th minute. So you got those veteran midfielders scoring for Atletico as well. They've kind of been the fuel for that Atletico Madrid team. But then you got João Felix up top with Luis Suarez has been a great combination. That back line of Jimenez, Savic, Felipe in front of Oblak has been absolutely incredible this year, and you just got to be impressed with what they've been able to do. And you look at some of the other teams, Real Sociedad and Villarreal play in this game. This was going to be an exciting game, but they both draw 1-1. Kind of goes in line with what they've been doing over the past few weeks. Just not really giving us any, good football. It's just kind of tough to see Real Sociedad season just kind of fall and not really, have any positivity at all. Real Madrid drop points. They lose to Levante. Oh man, what a tough loss for them. They give up. They're already at a man disadvantage in the 9th minute when Militao picked up a red card in the 9th minute. Marco Asensio was able to score pretty much right after that in the 13th minute, but Levante were able to eventually get the rhythm of the game. They had more possession towards the end. Real Madrid only had 8 shots, 2 on target, while Levante had 14 shots, 8 on target. So they were certainly starting to get their rhythm. They were able to equalize before the half. And then in the 78th minute, Roger Martí made sure to seal the game for Levante as they scored and took a 2-1 lead over Real Madrid. And pretty much with that loss, in my opinion, kind of sealing things for them. Because now that they're 10 points, behind Atletico Madrid, with Atletico Madrid having a game in hand, it just feels like there's absolutely no way any team can catch up to them. Sevilla have 4 wins in the last 5. Barcelona have 4 wins in a row. But they're both so behind Atletico Madrid. It feels like there's no chance for any of those teams to catch up. And in Liga, we have some interesting stuff happening at the top of the table. My PSG team somehow lose to Lorient, a team that's been battling relegation all season. They are coming off, they do now have 2 straight wins, but it's like, man, to give up a game like this when, you got teams like Lille who continue to win, got a 1-0 win over Dijon, Lyon who continue to win, get a 2-1 win over Bordeaux, and to lose this game. This is the first loss under Pochettino, and PSG didn't get a single goal in open play. Both of their goals were off penalties for Neymar, while Lorient were just continuing to dissect the PSG defense, which has been a problem this season, and they win 3-2. huge. I mean, the defense has been, they got 14 goals allowed in 22 games. That's solid. But it's just the consistency of it has just not been there. And they now drop points and are 3 points behind Lille in the table, 1 point behind Lyon. This Liga season has certainly been hyped. I've been hyping it every single time I talk about it, and it just continues to just give us very exciting football. And exciting storylines. Can Lille hold on? Can Lyon continue to hold on and keep PSG from that top of the table? It keeps on going back and forth. PSG had the lead for a few, but they weren't able to hold on to it. My apologies. Lose to Lorient and the 18th place team in this league and drop points and are now third. I can't believe it. But, that's just the way it's been for PSG this season when they get a few good games in a row, but then they drop points. To have 5 losses this early into the season, that's not PSG football, especially not in Liga. That's not the way they've been playing, and I'm very disappointed. But, yeah, that's going to wrap it up for this segment. Make sure you guys stick around because when I come back, I'm going to be talking about the Copa del Rey and Copa Italia games that I missed from my last show, and then preview the round coming up next.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back, everyone. If you missed the last segment, we went over the other top 5 leagues, went over some of the games that happened this past weekend, and what's going on at the top of the tables as some of those title races are really heating up, and some kind of separating themselves for that league title. And now we're going to be talking about the Copa del Rey and Copa Italia games that happened over the past week, the ones that I couldn't go over in the last segment or in the last show. I'm going to be going over those games, and I'm going to be previewing some of the matchups that we got going on in the next round. So let's start it off with the Copa del Rey, as we had some interesting games that happened. We had Sevilla versus Valencia. We had Barcelona going over against Rayo Vallecano. Athletic Club taking on Alcoyano, the team that had defeated Real Madrid and eliminated them from the Copa del Rey. We had Granada over against Naval Canero. And then finally we had Almeria over against Osasuna. So I want to start it off with just like the Almeria versus Osasuna game. Not much going on there. It was a goalless draw after regulation. Osasuna was pretty much dominating in terms of getting more efficient looks and attacks. They had 23 shots, 8 on target, and were pretty much dominating throughout that entire game. Although possession-wise, they only had 44% possession, but they were just more dominant in terms of their attacks, getting into the final third, getting shots, while Almeria got 10 shots, only 2 on target. Luckily for them, they did not allow a goal, got into penalties, and eventually won in penalties 5-4. Tough way for Osasuna to go out of the Copa del Rey competition, as they were clearly the more, the better side in this game, but just couldn't find the back of the net in regulation. And once it got into penalties, it was anyone's game there, and Almeria were able to win and move on to the quarterfinals. Huge for them. Sevilla absolutely dominated Valencia in their match, defeating them 3-0. It was pretty much over by the time it hit halftime. Sevilla, from the tip-off, or from the kickoff, were dominating possession. They were dominating Valencia in the final third, putting pressure on them so that they couldn't really find any sort of rhythm. They had 62% possession in this game, 15 shots and 6 on target, compared to Valencia's 9 shots and 4 on target. And Luke de Jong, their number 9, got off to a great start, got a header in the 20th minute, scored an easy goal, pretty much an easy tap-in in the 33rd to make it 2-0 for Sevilla. But then their star man, Ivan Rakitic, scored a ridiculous goal in the 33rd minute, or 38th minute, I should say, as he saw the Valencia goalkeeper, off his line and just chipped it right over him. The man did not know what he could do. There was nothing he could do about it. But, Rakitic got a little easy deflection before he was able to shoot that. But, it was such an easy goal. Such a nice goal from Ivan Rakitic, just showing, his class and quality that he brings to that Sevilla side. And this is easily a team that can go all the way and win this competition. Sevilla are one of the best teams in La Liga, and they show that they can absolutely dominate a team. Valencia are one of the worst teams in La Liga, in my opinion, or at least one of the more inconsistent teams. And specifically in this game, they don't have Guedes playing. They didn't have Jose Gaya, Carlos Soler. So they didn't even have a lot of their better players playing in this game. So it was kind of a tough game for them to win from the onset. While for Sevilla, they had Koundé, they had Bono, Jesus Navas, Acuna, Jordan, Munir, Suso, and obviously Rakitic and Luke de Jong, who got the goals in this game. So it was pretty much a one-sided game from the onset, and Sevilla made sure to not let this game go down to the wire. They took care of business, up 3-0 at halftime, didn't allow Valencia to get any sort of rhythm, get no goals, and they move on to the quarterfinals. Huge game for Sevilla, it was just easy for them. You could tell from the beginning of this game that Sevilla were going to be dominating, and if they didn't win, it would be a huge, huge upset. But Sevilla made sure that didn't happen, and they win 3-0. Next, we have Barcelona versus Rayo Vallecano. And in this, obviously, Barcelona have a lot riding on this competition. They're clearly, ways away from any sort of, threat to that La Liga title. They've already been, they lost in the final of the Copa, or the Supercopa de España. So this Copa del Rey title, this is, especially with Real Madrid gone, their biggest competition, I would say, is Sevilla. Maybe Real Betis or Villarreal, but in all, it should be Sevilla as the biggest threat to Barcelona to win this Copa del Rey. So they're looking at this competition as their, the only real chance at a trophy this season. Yes, they're in the Champions League knockout rounds, but who really gives this Barcelona team, the team that we've been seeing all season, a chance to win the Champions League against teams like Bayern, Manchester City, those top teams that no one really expects them to. But so a lot is riding here. And early on in this game, you can tell that Barcelona really had their eye on goal. They were getting a lot of opportunities, and man, they had a lot of bad luck in the early parts of this game. Hit the post like 2 or 3 times. Got clear chances, just couldn't get it past the goalkeeper of Rayo Vallecano, and it really looked like eventually Barcelona were going to get that opening goal. But they went into halftime tied at 0-0, and it really looked like, Barcelona were eventually going to get this goal. They were dominating possession. They were getting a lot of opportunities at goal. They had 14 shots in this entire game. That's not, a whole lot, but they had 6 shots on target. A lot of those hit the post, or the woodwork. But the thing is, the crazy part about this was that it was Rayo Vallecano against the run of play that opened up the game, or the scoring in this game, with a goal from Fran Garcia. But I got to tell you what, the run from, Alfredo, I believe is his name. No, which one was it here that scored that opening, or got that opening run for Rayo Vallecano? Alvaro. It was off the bench. Alvaro Rivera. What a run to get by Lenglet, and to pretty much, he got a shot on goal. Forced, Neto to save it. and then it was Fran Garcia to really put it past into the goal, but it was just a ridiculous run from Alvaro to really open up the defense of Barcelona and allow Fran Garcia to just get a nice tap in after the save from Neto. And that put a lot of pressure on Barcelona, and I'm sure their fans were really feeling it, even though the Barcelona were having a lot of the possession and the momentum in this game was all Barcelona. But the score was still 1-0 Rayo Vallecano. So they were wondering, was this going to be another one of those games? Was this going to be one of those seasons where Barcelona do not win a single trophy? Luckily, Lionel Messi, Antoine Griezmann, and Frank de Jong had something to say about that. Lionel Messi scored the equalizer just 6 minutes later. Very solid run from Antoine Griezmann. Great through ball from Frankie de Jong. And the thing is, whenever they had, in the first half at least, whenever Barcelona had that chance to make that extra pass, to make an easier goal, specifically Trincao, they didn't do it. They just didn't make that extra pass, and Messi looked very frustrated throughout that first half. But Griezmann made sure to find his star man wide open for an easy tap-in, and the same thing happened in just 11 minutes later, where Jordi Alba found Frankie de Jong in the middle of the box, wide open for an easy tap-in to make it 2-1. Barcelona move on to the quarterfinals. They do not lose this game, thank God. I mean, the amount of drama and the amount of news that have been coming out. It's Copa del Rey. It's not La Liga, but still, like, for them to be out of the Super Copa de España and to lose out in the Copa del Rey to a lower division side, it would have just continued all the problems that Barcelona have been going through this season. It would have just kind of capped off just what a terrible season this has been. But it did not happen. Barcelona are off to the quarterfinals with a 2-1 win against Rayo Vallecano. Next, we have Granada versus Naval Canero, and they absolutely dominated Naval Canero. They were up 4-0 by the time it hit halftime, and 6 different players scored in this game. 6 different players. They got a goal from, and a lot of them were really nice. Some were like some easy tap-ins, but man, there was one from, I believe it was the number 9, Roberto Soldado, who just absolutely chipped it right over the Naval Canero goalkeeper who was off his line. Really nice goal, but Granada made quick work of Naval Canero. Even though Naval Canero had 60% possession in this game, Granada were just way too efficient with their looks, way too fluid with their attack. At 21 shots, 12 on target, did not allow them to really get any sort of rhythm with that possession, and they move on to the quarterfinal with absolute ease. This is the kind of team that I was expecting to see throughout this season, although they haven't been at that same level, especially since guys like Herrera hasn't really been, that same guy that you would expect from them, but still, huge game from them. 6, I can't emphasize that enough. That is so huge that 6 different players scored each of the 6 goals for Granada. That means you just know you can get it from anywhere, and that is the type of team that Granada is. They're a complete team that gets their contributions from everyone. That was a huge win from them. Athletic Club versus Alcoyano. Could Alcoyano continue that incredible run after defeating Real Madrid and eliminating them from this competition? Can they do the same to Athletic Club and move on to that quarterfinals? They started off well. In the first half, it was very scrappy. Even though Athletic Club were getting opportunities, Alcoyano were just, kind of staying with them. It went into, and they even scored the opening goal in the 39th minute. A very nice deflected set-piece goal. That really threw off the Athletic Club goalkeeper. He couldn't really, punch it out as he was already leaning one way. He did get a hand on it, but it was just not enough to stop the goal from happening. And Alcoyano go into halftime up 1-0. But then Athletic Club in the second half looked a lot more, like spirited or motivated to really get opportunities, and specifically they were getting a lot of crosses into the box as Alcoyano just couldn't keep up with Athletic Club's, I guess I should say, like athleticism and their threats inside the box. Asier Villalibre in the 53rd minute scored a header. Inaki Williams scored his opening goal, the game-winning goal in the 78th to give Athletic Club that 2-1 win over Alcoyano to end their surprise run. And but man, this game was very, very close. Even though Athletic Club were clearly dominating throughout the game. I mean, they had 70% possession. They had 20 shots and 7 on target compared to 7 shots and 3 on target for Alcoyano. But man, you got to also, tip your hat to Alcoyano to always stay in this game. I mean, even though it kind of got away from them in the second half, they were very, very close to making another upset here and moving on to the quarterfinals. But they don't do that. They get eliminated here, and Athletic Club move on. We have a very exciting matchup in the next round of Barcelona versus Granada. Even though Barcelona are obviously going to be favored here, Granada can certainly upset them, especially with the way Barcelona have played throughout this season. Anything can happen there. I do like Real Betis versus Athletic Club as well. Two teams with very solid attacks and very good team overall. And I'll be excited to see what happens there. Sevilla get an easy draw with Almeria. Should take care of business there. Same thing for Villarreal. They take on Levante and should move on to the next round there. But yeah, I'm looking at that Barcelona versus Granada game to really be the most exciting one of this next round. Next, let's move on to the Coppa Italia, where we got some pretty interesting games. Atalanta taking on Lazio. I already talked about the Inter Milan versus AC Milan game, where Inter Milan were able to move on to the next round. Juventus got an easy draw against Spal. And Napoli, kind of same thing. They got an easy draw against Spezia. But so I'll start off with those first two, and then I'll move on to that Atalanta-Lazio game. Juventus made quick, easy work of Spal. Defeated them 4-0. Didn't give them any chance to really muster up any real threats at goal. They had 7 shots, only 1 on target, while Juventus had 24 shots and 12 of those on target. 55% possession, so Spal did get a lot of the ball, but just couldn't really do anything with it. Alvaro Morata scored the opening goal in the 16th minute via penalty. Then Gianluca Frabotta, yeah, I said it right the first time, in the 33rd minute made it 2-0 before the half. Dejan Kulusevski scored in the 78th minute, and then Federico Chiesa, who just, like I've been saying, it continues to improve and be one of the focal points of the offense, scores a real easy walking goal in the 94th minute. Although he should have probably had a goal earlier when as one just missed the goal. It just missed the bar really from the left side of the field. He went across goal to the right, really nice curve, just didn't go in. But really, this game was all Juventus. They were not threatened whatsoever. Let me see. What was it? Weston McKennie came off the bench. Arthur Melo didn't play. Obviously, you had Buffon in goal. And who else you had? And Federico Chiesa actually came off the bench. Alexandro actually got some looks there, but a lot of this was actually, a lot of the young players. You had De Ligt and Demirel in the center back positions. You had Bernardeschi playing. You had Aaron Ramsey, kind of like the one veteran in midfield. You had Rabiot there as well, and Morata up top, of course, to lead the team. And Kulusevski, all those players playing extremely well in this game and absolutely dominating Spal, as you would expect when you first saw this draw. Next, you had Napoli versus Spezia, and this was also another dominant performance for Napoli, as they were already up 4-0 by the time it hit half. Kalidou Koulibaly in the 5th minute opened up the scoring with a very... honestly, it was kind of a lucky goal. It got deflected, hit the bar. The Spezia goalkeeper tried batting it out, out of bounds so that they can reset, but it hit the bar, went right into play, and allowed one of the Napoli players to kind of hit it inside. And Koulibaly, really, really nice goal that he hit. It kind of deflected it into the goal, but it took a lot of skill to do that. And Napoli opened up the scoring there. Hirving Lozano was onside. There were a couple times where, for the Hirving Lozano goal and Matteo Politano goal in the 20th and 30th minute, that I thought they were offsides. But apparently they were onside. It didn't really show the replay during the highlights, but it was just a really, really... if it was onside, which obviously it must have, because they didn't disallow the goal. Very good timing from the crosses, especially for the Hirving Lozano goal. It got thrown in, and then immediately an immediate long through ball for Hirving Lozano that soared right over the defense and had Lozano wide open, and he clinically finished it past the goalkeeper. But yeah, this game was pretty much all Napoli throughout the entire game. However, Spezia did fight back a bit. In the span of 3 minutes or 4 minutes, they scored back-to-back goals to make it 4-2 in the second half. Though it was already too late. It was in the 73rd minute, although they were just down by 2 goals, so anything could have happened. But those were their only 2 shots on target. They only made 4 shots they only had 4 shots the entire game, despite having a slightly more possession. So regardless, this was all Napoli, and though they did take their foot off the gas pedal a little bit late in that game, you would expect them to kind of take care of business. They didn't do so. But still, they move away with the win after that dominant first half and win 4-2. And they're now in the semifinal now. And lastly, let's talk about that Atalanta versus Lazio game where it was back and forth. I mean, we had Atalanta start the scoring in the 7th minute. Then Lazio equalized in the 17th. They then took the lead by Acerbi in the 34th minute. But then in the 37th minute, Atalanta equalized again. So it was just back and forth. But man, what a game from their fullback Acerbi. I mean, or I guess center back / fullback, because he was part of that 3-man back line. But dude, he had an amazing game. I mean, he had this one run that led to his goal in the 34th minute that, like the commentator said, and I have to agree, was Messi-like. The way he was kind of like maneuvering his body, kind of keeping control of the ball around multiple defenders, and then be able to finish it home was just incredible. And he also assisted the first goal, so he had an incredible performance. But it was wasted as Atalanta, even with a man disadvantage, with Jose Palomino in the 53rd minute, picked up a red card. Miranchuk, just 4 minutes later, puts Atalanta ahead with a 3-2 victory now to move on to the semifinal. Huge game for Atalanta. Kind of a missed opportunity for Lazio as they've been playing so well in Serie A. Like I said in the last segment, they're on like a 5-game winning streak now. One of the hottest teams, if not the hottest team in Serie A, and they kind of didn't use a lot of their strong players. I mean, Ciro Immobile got subbed in. Luis Alberto didn't play. Milinkovic-Savic did. Like I said, Acerbi had a huge game. Pepe Reina made some big-time saves. Joaquin Correa didn't play until late. But, I mean, really, they didn't play many of their star players, and it kind of ended up hurting them. But you can really say the same thing for Atalanta. Yes, they had Gosens, they had Palomino and Christian Romero, and Luis Muriel, who's usually off the bench, started as well. But I mean, to be able to have a guy like that to come off the bench is just so huge. But yeah, man, it was Atalanta who were able to get the goals when they needed them and eliminate Lazio. And now we have a very, very exciting semi-final matchups. 2 very exciting Jesus, my bad, guys. 2 very exciting semi-final matchups where we had Juventus versus Inter Milan. That's going to be the big one there. I mean, 2 of the best teams in Serie A. The quality there is going to be incredible. And then you got Napoli versus Atalanta. 2 very, exciting attacking teams. Which one can come out on top there? I'm kind of leaning towards Napoli as they've been a bit more consistent than Atalanta in this competition. And for Inter Milan versus Juventus, I mean, honestly, it can go anywhere there. Although I think I might be siding with Inter Milan because I feel like they have a more complete team. I mean, they got from front line to back line even, and obviously you got Handanovic in front in between the sticks. This is going to be very exciting, but it changes for the semifinals. You got 2 legs here, so it can go any which way, but this is going to be very, very exciting to watch for the Coppa Italia. So that's going to wrap it up for this segment. Make sure you guys stick around because when I come back, I'm going to be talking about the top 10 clubs in the world so far this season right after this.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
welcome back, everyone. If you missed the last segment, we went over some of the cup matches that happened the past week that I wasn't able to cover in my last show. And now we're going to be talking about the top 10 clubs in the world so far this season. Now, before I go to my list, I want to make sure everyone knows that I'm talking about how these teams are playing in their domestic leagues. I know, you can't have like a lot of Liga teams over the other teams because the competition is not the same. I understand that, but just to be fair, I put a few teams from each league. There's actually a couple teams that aren't on here that you might be surprised of. That includes the two Spanish giants, Real Madrid and Barcelona. I do not have them in my top 10 because I just feel like their inconsistencies this season just don't deserve a top 10 spot on my list. They're right on the edge, along with teams like RB Leipzig, who, I would have definitely had in my top 10 had it not been over these past month of them playing very inconsistent. But let's just get started with number 10, probably the most surprising team on this list, Lille. The French club has been super consistent this season. They've been a great defensive club. With 15 goals allowed in I believe it's 22 games or 21 games. Very, very efficient. Their offense has been great as well. 36 goals scored. They've been playing very, very well throughout the season, and it has to do with the combination of players that they have in their front line and in their midfield. It all starts, in my opinion, with Jonathan Bamba. The French midfielder has 7 goals and 7 assists so far this season in all competitions. Has been by far their best player, in my opinion. You also got guys like Jonathan David and Jonathan Ikong, the forward and midfielder. For Jonathan, first I'll go with Jonathan David. He's got 4 goals, 3 assists. Jonathan Ikong has 6 goals, 4 assists. And then you got your forwards. First you got Burak Yilmaz, has 11 goals and 4 assists. And then you got Yusuf Yazici, I believe that's how you say his name, the Turkey forward, who's been coming off the bench primarily, has 11 goals and 5 assists. Those are huge numbers off the bench. I mean, he's been such an important piece for them. And really, you got to look at just that overall team. The fact that they have so many options off the bench that they can go to, and players that play regularly that are very important as well. Mike Magnon, their goalkeeper, has been huge this season. He has a .716 save percentage and 11 clean sheets in 27 starts. Has been huge. He's allowed less than 1 goal per 90 minutes and has just been a very vital piece to the team. And just overall, this little team has been very underrated. They're in the Europa League and they're already in the knockout rounds. They're so we'll see what happens there. But in Liga, they're number 1 in the league for a reason. It's because they have been able to combine some very solid attack from multiple players with a solid defense and a really good goalkeeper between the sticks. So I have Lille at number 10. I just couldn't have them over PSG. I just couldn't. I have them at number 9. PSG, they should be higher. With the quality of players that they have, they should be in the top 5. But they have been so inconsistent this season. Their defense has been great. They've allowed 11 goals in those 21 games. And their offense has been just as good. 48 goals scored. That's nearly 2.3 per game. And they've been a great team overall this season, but they lost in the Trophée des Champs to Marseille. They are facing Barcelona in that round of 16. They're still in the Copa de France, so they have a lot of things going on for them, but it's just the inconsistencies, man. It also obviously always starts with Mbappe, Neymar. Neymar has been injured for a lot of time this season, which is why he only's got 11 goals and 3 assists. But that's in 15 appearances. For Mbappe, he's got 16 goals, 9 assists in 23 appearances. He's been great this season. Hasn't been that, despite those great numbers, that's still kind of low for him because he hasn't been as consistently dominant as you would expect from Kylian Mbappe. Of course, you got Keylor Navas, 23 appearances. He's been an absolute monster. He's got an .845 save percentage and 13 clean sheets in 23 appearances. The man is a monster. He's one of the best goalkeepers in the world. I'm super happy that we were able to solidify that goalkeeping position because for so long, PSG has had that problem between the sticks. They've had to go to guys like Kevin Trapp, Areola, obviously an old Buffon, but they finally got their man between the sticks in Keylor Navas. He's been huge. Angel Di Maria continues to be one of the better playmaking midfielders in the world. 4 goals, 8 assists in all competitions. Moise Kean has been a huge addition to this team with 11 goals and 1 assist. And really, overall, this team has a lot of solid depth with guys like Rafinha, Danilo Pereira coming in. Obviously, their star backline of Kimpembe, Marquinhos. I love Florenzi. His addition to this team has been really good. The right back position is a little bit of I'm not really sure what we have. Diallo has been solid. Sometimes they use, and I don't mean right back, I meant left back position. They'll use Diallo there sometimes. Kurzawa has kind of played better of late, but Guille, I thought Guille was going to be such a great player for us, but he's kind of been, one of those, like, you kind of just forget that they're on the team sometimes, man. It just, Leandro Paredes is another player that's been playing very well. Pablo Sarabia is one of those bench pieces that's been very solid. 3 goals, 4 assists this season. And overall, I love PSG, but just it's the inconsistencies. They're third in La Liga, in Ligue 1 right now, behind Lyon and Lille. That's unacceptable for the kind of quality they have. That's why they come in at number 9. And number 8, it's kind of similar for Liverpool. They come in at number 8. I know that's probably going to be considered blasphemy because, Liverpool are such a high-quality team. But they have not done, they just haven't been good this season. They lost in the FA Cup in the 4th round to Manchester United. They lost in the Carabao Cup in the 4th round to Arsenal. They lost the Community Shield to Arsenal as well. They are facing RB Leipzig in the round of 16 of the Champions League, but with the way they've been playing, not many people are going to expect them to go all the way. And I know losing Virgil van Dijk is huge, but they still got guys like Mohamed Salah playing at a high level, 19 goals, 4 assists. Sadio Mane has also been playing well, 10 goals, 4 assists, but not at that same level that we expected of him. Honestly, in my opinion, Mohamed Salah is the MVP for the team so far, but Andrew Robertson is a close second. He's been kind of filling that... Alexander Arnold role. He's got 1 goal, 5 assists. I don't think he's missed a single game this season. He's been one of their most consistent players this year. And, Roberto Firmino has some good moments, 6 goals, 5 assists. Even Diego Jota had, some great stretches early on in the season, but he's kind of fallen back a little bit. He's got 9 goals for the team as well. Alexander Arnold just hasn't had that same impact on the team this year. He's got 5 assists. A long shot from what he was doing the past couple seasons where he set back-to-back records for a defender in assists in the Premier League. But it still all comes back to the fact that they do not have their star man, Virgil van Dijk. I love Thiago Alcantara. He's a great addition to this team. And then obviously the depth that they have. Jordan Henderson, Curtis Jones has been great for them. James Milner, Joe Gomez. You could do a lot better than Joe Gomez and Joel Matip. Fabinho has been huge for them. The fact that he's been able to play in that back line with Virgil van Dijk out. Shaqiri, Naby Keita. They've been playing some minor roles, but Shaqiri does have a goal and 3 assists. Minamino's played some good minutes, 4 goals, 2 assists. But overall, it's just been kind of a missed season for Liverpool. Not what you expected from them at all. They've kind of fallen back in the Premier League as well. They're 4th at the moment, but behind teams like Leicester, Manchester United, and obviously Manchester City. So Liverpool at number 8. At number 7, I got Juventus. Kind of the same thing. Started off the season a little slow. They're starting to pick it up a bit, but they haven't really had that dominant season that you expect them from Serie A. It's been very competitive this season with teams like AC Milan and Inter Milan playing incredible this year. But Juventus are still, obviously, they're 3rd in Serie A. They're a bit ways away from those other 2 teams. But it all starts and ends with Cristiano Ronaldo. 20 goals this season, 3 assists. Juan Cuadrado has been huge. 11 assists for them, leads the team. And Alvaro Morata, what an addition he has been. 13 goals, 8 assists. Just a huge player for them. Same thing could be said for the youngsters. Federico Chiesa, Dejan Kulusevski, and Weston McKennie have all been playing very vital pieces for this team. I'm also very impressed with Danilo. That back line of Bonucci and... what's the other? Chiellini has also been good. They've been using Matthias de Ligt, even though he got injured early on in the season. He's been starting to play a little bit more now. Same thing with Demiral. But really, overall, it's been a solid season for them, but just not the dominant team that we've been expected to see from them over the years. That's why they come in at number 7. At number 6, I have Manchester United, second in the Premier League right now. They're starting to fall a little bit behind Manchester City, but they're still in the FA Cup. They lost to Manchester City in that Carabao Cup semi-final. They're still in the Europa League. They take on Real Sociedad in the round of 32. But in the Champions League, they fell apart, man. Third place in the group stage. And I know I said I was going to talk about the domestic league. Like, I'm obviously going off their domestic league. But still, you look at the team's been doing. It's the duo of Bruno Fernandes and Marcus Rashford has been huge for them. Bruno Fernandes has 16 goals, 9 assists, while Marcus Rashford has 15 goals and 7 assists. Huge. The kind of like that leap that you were expecting from Anthony Martial hasn't really happened. He's still having an okay season, 5 goals, 5 assists, but the goals just aren't there as much as you would expect. I like what you get from Harry Maguire. He's still an excellent center back. Aaron Wan-Bissaka gives you some solid minutes as well as a great defensive fullback as well. Probably one of the best defensive fullbacks in the world. Paul Pogba, despite starting off the season, kind of poor, to be honest, he's kind of picked up that form and is playing like the midfielder that many expected him to play this season. Scott McTominay's been good as well. Edison Cavani's been a solid addition, 5 goals already, 2 assists. Kind of sucks to see what's going on with Donny van de Beek, playing primarily off the bench. He's got 1 goal, 1 assist in 23 appearances, only 10 starts. I really expected more from him, but they haven't really played him. And David De Gea, he's been okay, but he shouldn't be starting anymore. 641 save percentage, 8 clean sheets in 24 starts. I prefer Dean Henderson. In his play primarily in cup matches, he's got a 750 save percentage, 4 clean sheets in 10 appearances. He should be getting the regular starting time. But David De Gea has obviously been there for some time, and they're going to go with him. Number 5, we have Inter Milan. They've been huge this season, followed up last season's second place finish with another very solid season. They're second this year behind AC Milan, and they've been very, very solid. 49 goals scored, nearly 2.5 per game. 23 goals against, a little bit more than 1 goal allowed per game. So their defense hasn't been the same as it was in recent years, or at least from last year. Obviously, Samir Handanovic is still between the sticks, very solid player, but he's kind of fallen off a little bit. He's age 36, starting to get a little old, 671 save percentage, 8 clean sheets in 28 appearances. So he's not playing that same level of play that you would expect from him. Nicola Barella has been huge, team leading 7 assists, but then you got Romelu Lukaku obviously being a beast with 20 goals, 3 assists, but then also his that duo of him and Lautaro Martinez, who also has 11 goals and 5 assists, has been huge. Hakimi's a great addition, adds a lot to that attack, 6 goals and 4 assists. I love what Bastoni adds to that back line. He's got 3 assists, Steven De Vrij as well. But really, this team has a lot of depth and depth. I love Brozovic as well. I've said he's a great defensive midfielder. He's got 7 assists as well, tied with Barella for the team lead. And really, they get a lot of contributions from a lot of this team. They're very, very deep. Arturo Vidal, Ashley Young, Ivan Perisic, Alexis Sanchez, Darmian D'Ambrosio, Christian Eriksen, who really hasn't gotten much time this season, but he did score that incredible goal in the Coppa Italia. It's just been really huge for this team to have a lot of depth, and that's why they're one of the top 5 teams this year. At number 4, we have Manchester City. Although I might regret this, I feel like they're the way they're playing right now, they're easily a top 3 team. But I have to take into account what they've been doing early on in the season, which was not good at all. But they're still in the Champions League. They're still in the FA Cup. They're still in the Carabao Cup. They're facing Tottenham Hotspurs. But overall, it's just been a very solid season from them, especially lately. But it all starts with Kevin De Bruyne leads the league and obviously the team with 15 assists. Raheem Sterling's been quietly very solid, 9 goals, 7 assists. Still, same thing with Phil Foden, tied with him and Gundogan, who has been absolutely on fire. Probably the hottest player right now for Manchester City with 9 goals. Phil Foden has 5 assists to go with those 9 goals. Ilkay Gundogan has 1 assist. Riyad Mahrez has been huge. But man, in my opinion, what really makes this team go is their incredible back line of Ruben Dias and John Stones. They have been playing so well together. It's one of the best backline pairings in the world right now. Rodri has been huge as well, and Ederson, obviously, between the sticks has been a great, has really stepped it up this season. An 800 save percentage, 16 clean sheets in 24 starts, absolutely huge. But really, it's the depth from this team, how much quality they have from up and down the roster. From like I said, Ruben Dias being probably one of the biggest signings of the season, to guys like Zinchenko, Ferran Torres, Gabriel Jesus, Fernandinho, Laporte. I mean, Laporte hasn't really gotten much time, but like still, that they have so much depth on this team. It's just impossible to keep them down, and that's why they're in the top of the Premier League right now, man. Just the way they're playing is incredible. At number 3, I have AC Milan. I love what they're doing. I mean, the way that they've been playing this season, 41 goals scored. That's good for just over 2 per game. Their defense hasn't been that solid, 23 goals allowed, just over 1 per game. But really, Milan has been so, like, pretty much the top of the Premier League since the start of the season. They started, like, they went on a huge unbeaten run. They haven't played as solid of late, but they still have, they made such a big lead in that top of the table that they're still really, really, really good. And they're in the Europa League facing the Red Star Belgrade in the round of 32. They did lose in the Coppa Italia to Inter Milan. That was a really tough loss, but you look at the team, I mean, Frank Kessie has been huge for them. Theo Hernandez continues to play like one of the best fullbacks in the world. Zlatan Ibrahimovic just continues to age like a fine wine. 13 goals, 2 assists. Hasn't been that good in penalties. 3 penalties scored for 7 attempts. But Kessie has been that other, option at the penalty spot, like I said earlier in the show. Sandro Tonali, great 20-year-old. Rafael Leao has been playing huge this season at 21 years old. He's got 6 goals and 4 assists, huge for them. Hakan Kalhanoglu, the number 10, 2 goals, 6 assists. They just get a lot of contributions from pretty much everywhere on the roster, although I don't feel like the quality's there as much as, some of the other teams in Serie A, but they just play so well as a team that it doesn't really matter, and that's why they're number 3 on this list. And number 2, I have Atletico Madrid. I mean, just how dominant they've been able to play this season. They got 36 goals so far this year, good for 2 per game, and only 8 goals allowed. Just absolutely ridiculous. I mean, well, actually, that's wrong. I know that's wrong, but still, it's pretty much close to that. They've just been so dominant this year. They're by far the best team in La Liga, and I mean, the way they're playing, they're one of the best teams in the world. And it all starts with, you got Luis Suarez and João Felix playing great up top. 9 goals and 4 assists for Felix. 12 goals and 2 assists for Luis Suarez. You knew that Luis Suarez was going to be an amazing addition to this team, and he has proven that. Yannick Carrasco coming back from the Chinese league has been huge. 3 goals and 5 assists. I love Marcus Llorente. He's come back and is having a huge season. 7 goals and 6 assists. But of course, you got between the sticks, John Oblak, probably the best goalkeeper in the entire world, putting up an 800 save percentage, 13 clean sheets in 24 starts. But of course, he gets a lot of help from that incredible backline of guys like Steven Savic, Jose Jimenez, and it just goes on and on. They have a great team, and I feel like they're just going to be one of the tough outs in the Champions League. They do take on Chelsea in the round of 16. That's a favorable matchup for them, and they should be expected to win or at least get pretty close to the final this year. Number 1, of course, we have Bayern Munich. I mean, who else would you expect to be here? Their offense is by far, or their attack, I should say, is by far the best in the world. 57 goals scored. That's good for 3 per game. 26 goals allowed. Not as good. That's close to 1.5 goals allowed per game. But honestly, this team is incredible. The amount of options that they have on this team. Thomas Müller has 13 goals, 12 assists, continues to, just be incredible. I mean, Lewandowski continues to be the best striker in the entire world. 27 goals, 7 assists. Joshua Kimmich, one of the best midfielders in the world, one of the best players in the world, with 4 goals, 13 assists. Serge Gnabry, not having as huge of a season, but still contributing with 6 goals and 1 assist. Kingsley Coman, having a huge season with 5 goals and 11 assists. And Leroy Sané as well, just adding to that already ridiculous roster with 7 goals and 5 assists. Alphonso Davies not having as big a season, but he's still super young, so still has more time to develop. But overall, this team is just absolutely ridiculous. And also Manuel Neuer having a very solid season. 720 save percentage, 6 clean sheets in 27 appearances. Not the huge season that you expect from Manuel Neuer, but he is getting up there in age. But still one of the better sweeper keepers in the world. This team is just going to be a huge, one of the toughest outs in the Champions League. They take on Lazio in the round of 16. Feel bad for Lazio, honestly, but Bayern Munich, by far the best team in the world. No one else is going to be able to catch them, and they should be favorites for another Champions League crown. So that's going to wrap it up for this segment. I hope you guys enjoyed. I love giving you guys all this, talking with you guys about soccer. But as always, thank you for listening to the GSMC Soccer Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I would like to ask that you please remember to subscribe to the show and write a nice review. That really helps us. Also, if you can please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you and have a great night.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.